Bobby Chasnis. I'm the Director of Pure Michigan Business Connect at the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. Joining me today is Beth Cryderyman Moss, who's the President of Procurement Technical Assistance Centers of Michigan. Welcome, Beth.
Thank you, Bobby. It's good to be here.
Great. So today we're going to be sharing a little bit about how both of our organizations, PTACs and MEDC, work together and how our respective resources better prepare suppliers for opportunities with buyers. For those audience attending, if you have any questions for us or comments that you'd like to add to the discussion, please feel free to share them in the comments and we'll get to as many as we can. So Beth, I'd like to start this off really by talking a little bit about PTACs and letting you do kind of an introduction about your organization, if you would, maybe covering some resources, services, and maybe some office locations.
Sure, absolutely. So the PTACs, Procurement Technical Assistance Centers, we're actually a DoD, Department of Defense program of record administered by the Defense Logistics Agency. We've been around since about the mid-1980s. This was born out of something called CICA, the Competition and Contracting Act. And what it was designed to do is to ensure that there were a broad base of suppliers to meet DoD initiatives. When the calling was heard, that we would have enough small businesses that could participate in federal contracting, DoD contracting opportunities to serve basically our nation's warfighters in time of need. So it was developed out of it's a cooperative agreement, and we receive our source of match from the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. So MEDC rightfully recognized that not only is this a way to ensure national security, to ensure that we have a broad base of suppliers supporting our nation's defense, but MEDC also saw it as a very viable economic development tool for folks and firms to diversify into federal contracting. Mm-hmm. And so the way that we do that is we do that through a lot of one-on-one counseling. We host a good deal of training events all over the state. There are 10 PTAC centers throughout the state of Michigan, and there are about 100 throughout the country and U.S. territories. So I see that we just pulled up a map of the different locations that are around the state. I am the director of the Macomb Regional PTAC, that little blue dot in the southeast Michigan area, which is actually kind of in the heart of the defense corridor of Michigan. We're located about 1.5 miles from the Detroit Arsenal and about 20 miles to the south or to the northeast of us is Selfridge Air National Guard Base. But there are 10 centers located throughout the state. So wherever you are in the state of Michigan, you have a local PTAC office that you can lean on to assist you, to get you started in the either the defense sector. We started out as primarily DoD, and then about 15 years ago, they expanded our mission to envelop any type of federal contracting, state and local contracting. Mm-hmm. So there's lots and lots of resources available to you to take you through from I can't spell DoD to you're now a potential federal contractor administering a contract for the Department of Defense or some other federal agency.
That's fantastic. Appreciate that background and really appreciate kind of the detail that you laid into there. So, obviously we've worked together in the past. Our history goes back a good ways, but I think talking a little bit, rolling into a little bit of our shared goals and kind of the objectives for working with Michigan suppliers. Can you speak a little bit about, kind of the story that we spoke about before, I guess, as PMBC kind of rolling out of PTACs originally?
Yeah, it's a really interesting story. Going back to, and I hope I can call him out, Mr. Trevor Paul,
Yeah.
who now works in mobility, as I understand it, is
Mm-hmm.
doing a lot of things to advance mobility applications for the state of Michigan. He was with the Detroit Regional Chamber,
Mm-hmm.
and a former employee, former colleague of mine out of the Macomb Regional PTAC, also went to the Detroit Regional Chamber, and she was familiar with what we used to call out opportunities, where we would put a blast out to our client base if there were a prime contractor that was looking for a specific capability or source of supply that they needed to fill the needs or conditions of their contract, looking for a subcontractor. We would put that information out through a call out blast. And they sort of took that concept and developed sort of a matchmaker kind of platform.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of grew into Pure Michigan Business Connect. It was called something a little differently when it was at the Detroit Chamber. And that service was secured or procured by PMBC, by MEDC, and expanded on and utilized to where it is today.
Mm-hmm.
So way back in the day, going back, I had those early conversations, understanding the very, very positive role that MEDC could play to help provide a resource to sort of streamline that matchmaking process. The PTACs want to focus on serving our client, providing the information they need to position themselves correctly within the marketplace so that they can be successful. We don't have the technological platforms in place that PMBC can leverage. So it really, really became kind of a win-win as we started to see the resources that PMBC could provide, the technical knowledge, the depth of knowledge that it takes to accurately position a company for success, and putting those things together to truly look at it as a collaborative opportunity. Collaboration, I like to say, there's a colleague of mine, that doesn't mean that this organization does all the work and another organization does all the credit. It's really, really to find that sweet spot where we can proceed together in a win-win scenario where you're simultaneously meeting the goals and objectives of what you want to do to provide a service to basically the taxpayers of the state of Michigan, and that like-minded working together collaboratively as a partnership. We see this moving forward in a great way. I don't want to steal your thunder, Bobby, but we just recently had an event last month where we collaborated with PMBC, the PTACs of Michigan, collaborated with PMBC with Boeing Corporation, where we had 60 different one-on-one meetings that occurred for just about 50 companies. There were over 200 in attendance. And that was just a great example of collaboration between PMBC and the PTACs of Michigan.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for calling that out. Actually, that's a great segue, because I think it really highlights, exactly what each of our organizations are good at. Like you said, it's kind of the marrying of the two organizations to ensure that, we can take the logistics and the technology platform off of your hands, let you focus on more of that in-depth analysis of those needs and really highlighting any suppliers that can fulfill those. I think we frequently work with buyers to help uncover procurement opportunities, but by no means are we, a completely understanding of all the needs, and we don't want to be the experts. So I think it's a fantastic resource for us, really, to tap on PTACs of Michigan. If there's ever a demand, like Boeing, for example, that wants to share, information in a meet the buyer type format, to where they can have a little bit of some time to really share about their organization and their procurement needs, and then we can do all the matchmaking on the back end, by the help of PTAC. So I think it's incredibly accurate, exactly what you said. I love the marrying of those two programs, and really, we look forward to having more of those types of events and those types of opportunities out there. So that's perfect.
Yeah, and if I can just interject just a second on that too, Bobby, one of the things that transpired out of that event is, and we've done some previous events with other major OEMs or prime contractors, but to your point, the technical assistance, the taking someone, stepping them through in order for them to prepare so that they can put their best foot forward when they have that opportunity. It's a 15-minute segue where you have the potential to really showcase your company or firm. So what the PTACs of Michigan did is we had a series of events that we chronologically laid out that transpired across the state, occurred across the state, preparation meetings, so that if you are the person designated within your company or organization, what should I say? What should I focus on? How does a potential buyer or prime contractor, what kind of things do they want to hear in order to really help them make a decision that this is indeed a company that we want to do business with? So in conjunction with that, and PMBC helped us advertise those throughout the state. So folks that just needed a little bit more background or a little bit more, let's say, confidence building on ensuring that they're really showcasing the capabilities of their company to Boeing in advance was also very, very successful. And I thought, we all thought lended very well to the event itself.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think those supplier prep sessions are, they're imperative really for some folks that maybe it's their first time, speaking with a procurement representative, or even just trying to refine their pitch or, refine some of the things that they want to mention during that. So I completely agree. I love
you want to keep those big primes coming back to Michigan, right?
Absolutely.
Find your suppliers in Michigan, keep them coming back. And when we get comments like, boy, out of all the matchmaking events I've done around the country, whoever that small business liaison officer is or acquisition person is, that is our POC. What the buzzword, the key thing that we look for is, hey, out of all the events I've been to, the Michigan supplier base was one of the most prepared overall that we've come across. We know that we hit the target, and that's been told to us several times. So I'm really, really pleased that that we're able to progress like this as a partnership, as a collaborative opportunity for both organizations.
Yeah, for sure. And we love to hear that as well. We love to hear, it was a professionally run event, but also that the suppliers were really well prepared, because I think it shows well both on the state, both on you, but also on that supplier side. We want to make sure that they are comfortable and capable. So I think that really lends itself to exactly what you said is, getting them in a position to where their confidence is built up to be able to pitch. I think it's wonderful. And so we do have a quick question I see is, from your experience, what size of a business should you be to start the process? And it's probably talking about the PTAC process, but from our side, I'll answer it first. We handle any businesses, really, from small, medium to large. It could be 1 to 2 employees all the way up to 500. So for PMBC, that's kind of what we look for. There's really not too big or small to start the process. But from your perspective, Beth, what do you think about that? How small or large could a business be to start the process with PTACs?
Well, I am so glad that question was asked, because I do believe that there is a little bit of a misnomer out there that the PTACs only serve small businesses or can only work with small businesses. And that is absolutely not the truth. Any size business. Our target market is the small business community. We are part of the Defense Logistics Agency Small Business Program Office. However, we are not limited to working with only small businesses. So we have large prime contractors that are also part of our client base that we provide services to. And some larger firms, some in the automotive industry, that are what we call non-traditional, meaning they're typically not what you would find looking to pursue potential work in the federal marketplace, whether that be DoD or some other federal agency, we are not limited by size. So it can be a 1 or 2 person LLC or partnership to a large corporation. We can insert ourselves to provide assistance where needed. In many cases, some of the larger primes will call on us to help build their supply chain, as I mentioned, with that really specific capability that they're looking for that might be a little bit more rare. In order to find, we can, if for example, we get the call in my office, the Macomb Regional PTAC, we don't have a client that may be able to fulfill that particular capability, we can call on our sisters and brothers out there across the state, the 10 PTAC centers throughout Michigan, and say, hey, this capability I'm not finding it in Macomb County. Does anyone have a client that has that capability? And then in the event, if it's a really rare capability or service that a major OEM or a big prime is looking for, we have a national organization that we can kick that to. And surely we will be able to find either a similar that can match that capability or be able to fulfill that need, because we want those big corporations, the big companies, the OEMs to come back. We want them to see us as a viable service, and we certainly can help them no matter what size. So please lean on us, reach out to the best way to determine who you should work with. Bobby, I'm going to back up just a second too. You asked me to talk about my role. So I'm kind of dual hatted today. I am the director of the Macomb Regional PTAC. I help manage one of those 10 centers in the state of Michigan. And right now I'm serving as the PTACs of Michigan president. We have a professional development association that we all came together and created a 501c3, which has an executive board, a board. We have a president, vice president, secretary, treasurer. Currently, I'm serving the president of that organization. And that PTACs of Michigan organization helps give us a sort of a launch point so that we can kind of ensure continuity of services throughout the state, where there's not like an unequal level of service being performed. And it's also a launch point where when we want to collaborate on a larger event like we did with Boeing, we can all work together as the PTACs of Michigan organization, working on larger events while we're simultaneously having smaller local events to really serve our constituency in our local community. So quite frankly, a long story short, size does not matter when it comes to working with a business organization that would like help understanding the federal marketplace better.
Yeah, perfect. And you know, you kind of mentioned something there that I wanted to touch on as well, is kind of about the regional support that you mentioned. You know, I think especially on the demand side, you know, you see a lot of individuals or procurement representatives coming to you, and like you said, you know, you start small and kind of reach throughout the state. And if there are no solutions in the state, you have access to find those types of solutions outside of it. So I love, you know, I love the fact that you start regional and start in state. You know, we want to support our local communities here, but there's no barriers preventing you from reaching outside of the state, because obviously, you know, Pure Michigan Business Connect, we are a state program, and we do like to find solutions in there, but it's great to have another resource should we be able to service, you know, those buyers that are looking for a hard to find material or hard to find capability.
And absolutely. And to your point, Bobby, I mean, you know, we have a very, very diverse state. We have very urban and very rural, some very sparsely populated areas and very populated areas. And of course, the needs of the businesses in those communities are very, very different. So at a local level, each individual PTAC office can really drill down into what are the specific barriers and needs and understanding, because they live and work in those communities, understanding the needs of what that company and barriers they may be up against on a local level. And then as a statewide scale for the PTACs of Michigan, bringing that all together to bring that particular capability to the forefront on a larger platform to provide more visibility. So it's kind of the best of both worlds that we have here in Michigan. That doesn't exist in other states, by the way. They don't have that local regional program where you can serve on the regional scale and then have that statewide umbrella through an organization like we do, providing really the best of both worlds. It's a unique sort of relationship that we have between the PTACs here in the state of Michigan. And it's really something that I really wish more leadership across the state of Michigan understood fully and embraced, because it is unique. It is very effective, and it really can serve on a granular scale up into a more macro scale, assisting businesses in their success and endeavors.
Absolutely. And, something else is about that is there is no handoff, right? There is no handoff to a separate organization to say, okay, well, you got to get up to speed on what this buyer's needs are. It's a really seamless transition for you all to look outside of that state for any of those solutions. So I absolutely love that too. I did want to jump right back in a little bit to talk a little bit more about our, meet the buyer type events that we've hosted together. We've had a few in the past, I think is October and November of last year. We're looking forward to having a couple more this upcoming August. And really what those events were for us, was an opportunity for us to kind of dive into the virtual format first and foremost because of COVID and all of the in-state meetings and events being canceled. But it's also has the ability for us to kind of have those typical purchasers reach out to a greater audience. I think, one of the benefits of having some of those virtual events is that we can reach out to some of those suppliers in some of those sparsely populated areas of the state. We don't have to have them drive, a couple hours, 2, 3, 4 hours, either downstate, across the state, whatever it may be, to have access or to learn more about some of the stuff that we're putting on. So, I think it's been a great partnership so far, and I love the willingness of PTACs really to help us uncover that demand, and then utilize our services on our side to kind of spread it out to the network to get them involved.
Yes, and to your point, not only sparsely populated areas that find it difficult to have the physical one-on-one meetings, the virtual environment providing that opportunity, that same scenario applies to the buyer community. Those organizations, federal organizations that may not necessarily be able to send someone physically, have someone fly out to a physical matchmaker. That also enables them to participate on a broader scale. And to your point, we are working with PMBC, the Macomb Regional PTAC, on a matchmaker event that's hosted, I believe it's August 19th, I think is when it's scheduled for. We already have 17 buyers confirmed for that, that are located in different headquarters all over the country. And so it goes from local community, local contracting on a state scale to the federal level. And a lot of those federal buyers would not be able to participate had it not been, or if it were not for the virtual environment that your PMBC platform is providing us the ability to utilize.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point, is the access goes both ways, right? I mean, for the suppliers in state to attend, but also for the purchasing representatives and the buyers from either out of state, possibly even, out of country sometimes that we work with, in order to find more about the supply base here in Michigan or what the capabilities that they have might be. So I love that. And thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, and I don't want to leave out my sister organization. I think Flint Genesee PTAC is working with PMBC on a matchmaker on August 12th. I know that you can contact them as well and get information on theirs. And I think there are several others in the works. I apologize for not having all 10 of our centers dates all lined up in my head, but certainly that map that Rachel brought up for us earlier, if you go to www.ptacsofmichigan.org, that's ptacsofmichigan.org, you'll be able to find all the information you need to tap into your local PTAC and what is their next matchmaker educational event moving forward.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. I think I'd like to kind of roll into the next question about kind of the impact of government contracts and how they have, what impact they provide to Michigan's entrepreneurial ecosystem and really just the economy. You know, could we speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, boy. Oh, so last year, and I'm going to speak from memory here, guys. Don't 100% quote me, but we look and track those stats. The state of Michigan, the PTACs collaboratively get together and we do what we call a PTAC impact statement. And I believe it was about $1.2 billion in contract award activity that the 10 PTAC centers throughout the state of Michigan helped secure for Michigan companies. So that ended up in, I want to say, about $400 to $1 ROI. So for every $400, $1 that was invested by MEDC and DLA, that's returning about a $400 return on investment. So it's significant. It is significant. And many of those vendors would not have had the success that they've had it not been having a resource to walk them through the process, a call center of sorts, which is kind of one of the things that we do. Sometimes when you finally get that actual award, it's just begun for you. Now you have to perform on that contract. You have to administer it. You have to bill against it. And there are other hiccups that can come into play along the way. And the PTACs can be there to serve as that resource to help you untangle that on the forefront, from getting yourself properly positioned to the point that you're actually now performing on a contract and administering it, because certainly we do not want to set anyone up for failure. And there are past performance dynamics that come into play. If you fail to deliver on that contract, you may not have the opportunity again. Based on past performance, if your delivery is not met, other issues come into play. So we want to tell you what you need to hear to be successful, not necessarily what you want to hear, but what you need to hear in order to appropriately position yourself for success. Your success is our success. And sometimes the best thing that we can do for a company is let them know they may not be ready to serve in this environment, that they have to put together, really look at their financial house, and are their financial record, is their financial house in order? Do they have the resources in place in order to ensure that they can perform on this contract? Sometimes that takes going back to the drawing board a bit, and we'll still work with you all along the way. But we want to make sure that this is a successful endeavor for you and an opportunity for you to diversify into another market.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's, it's a perfect example of tough love. Sometimes it's a hard thing to share, but you have to be open to a little bit of that constructive criticism, because like I said earlier, you are the experts in that government contracting. And for those suppliers that maybe are kind of dipping their toes in the water, there's a lot of information that could be overlooked, or could just be something that they haven't really put in a lot more resources that they need to in order to be ready to respond to some of those RFPs.
Yep, it's amazing how just something that you would consider or think of as a simple process can go sideways really fast. Systems for award management is a great example for that. SAM, when you register for SAM, you get a CAGE code, a commercial and government entity code. There are certain things that you need to make sure and ensure are consistent across a broad base of different databases that are maintained. And if one of those things goes off the rail, it can affect your SAM registration, and you will not get a contract unless that's in place. So that's just one example on the beginning part, the front end of this, that we can help really sort of take away some of those hurt bumps and get you from point A to point B a lot faster if you sign up and engage with us earlier rather than sooner.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, that actually segues into, I think what I wanted to kind of finally touch on is relative to some of those smaller businesses that might be looking, to get involved with the DoD or involved in government contracting. Something that's been a buzzword, for at least a few years now. Cybersecurity and how some of these small businesses can prepare or get ready to being assisted or to assist with government contracts. Can you talk a little bit about, cybersecurity, maybe some of the ins and outs and what some of the smaller businesses should be thinking of?
Absolutely. Cybersecurity is not going away. And as you have seen in the news recently, major corporations, infrastructure firms that are being hit. So we want to ensure that that the DoD wants to ensure that your data is not getting lifted. So there is something called NIST 800-171. That was a standard that was implemented back in 2017 that the Defense Federal Acquisition Regulations put into their regulatory requirements that you need to be NIST 800-171 compliant. And what we have found, or what DoD uncovered, was that standard really applied to whether or not you're a major corporation, OEM doing business in the Department of Defense, to very small firms. The compliance requirements were exactly the same, no matter how big or small. So what they did was they took that 800-171 compliance. There's about 120 different compliance requirements, I think 14 different families of compliance, and they sorted that out into 5 different levels, which is now called CMMC, Cyber Security Maturity Model Certification. And so now it's on a level scale. Level 1, a smaller operation, maybe not as many portals or points of entrance that could be of concern where someone could get data lifted, to level 5, which is very, very high level, very complex organizations that have a lot of different elements or points that could potentially be a potential risk to the company and that organization. So when we look at small businesses, particularly manufacturers, you may be only building or responding to one component, and you have a technical data packet, a TDP, for that one component. But if you start to look at what that small business, that one organization is doing, and several companies in the area, if you're a very savvy bad actor, you could start to get to put together a picture of a major assembly that could be something pertinent that goes on a major weapon system. So we want to ensure that companies are doing their due diligence to protect their data, not only in behalf of the Department of Defense, but just on the safety of their own organization. In the end, it really just makes good business sense. And the PTACs are here to help you, walk through that process, understand what the NIST 800-171 compliance standard is, and what that CMMC rollout, which is about a 5-year rollout. This is a major initiative by the Department of Defense. What that means to you, we'll certainly be here to help you walk through that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Beth. I think, we're running up against time right now. If there are any final questions, please drop them in the chat. But thank you so much, Beth. It's been a great conversation today to really speak about PTACs, the Procurement Technical Assistance Center, and really how our organizations work together to continue to connect Michigan suppliers with government contracts. Also, thank you to everyone who joined us today. For more information about the programs and resources available that we have to entrepreneurs and small businesses, you can go ahead and visit our website at michiganbusiness.org/PMBC. Is there any final wrap-ups that you wanted to mention there, Beth?
Just really appreciate, Bobby, the invitation. We'll be back anytime you want us to come back and do something similar. Something changes in the landscape, please invite us back. We're happy to talk about what we do, and we're very proud of it. And it's our way of serving our community, serving our nation, and so grateful for your support. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.